Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited, and hopefully, our technology is working well. Rich, I think we're on LinkedIn Live. I don't know. Is this your first LinkedIn Live?
I'm a virgin LinkedIn Liver, but I feel great.
Good, good, good. I'm very excited. I'm hoping that the technology all works, but I can tell you if it doesn't work, I'll get millions of messages telling me why it's not working and stuff like that. So hopefully, this is going out live. We got you guys from all around the world, and today I'm actually really excited that we've got Rich Tong with us. I'm going to let Rich introduce himself in just a second. I'm just going to give you guys a quick update on Horizon X, and that'll help you tie in to today's conversation. I've got a couple slides to share with you, and so in just talking to about Horizon X, you guys know that our job here is to fuel growth through strategic innovation. And a lot of people ask me, how did I come up with the title Horizon X? And I was really motivated by the three horizons of innovation. You've got the Horizon One, that's your incremental innovation. That's the innovation we all know very well. That's the stuff we do day to day, and we're just incrementally making it better. Now, you can call it innovation, you can call it transformation, you can call it change. That's where we spend most of our time. It's kind of inwardly looking and working within our organization. Horizon Two is where we're bringing new technology into the organization. It exists in the world, but it's new to our organization. And that's kind of the Horizon Two. And that's where we're going to spend most of our time today with Rich talking about AI. And I'm very lucky to be joined by Rich. He's an AI expert. I could tell you that I go to conferences, I meet different people, and I hear a lot about AI, but when I hear Rich talk, he makes me realize how much little I know, but he actually teaches me a lot. And so I'm hoping that we can pass on that knowledge to the community here. And then there's the Horizon 3 innovation, and that's kind of the disruptive innovation. That's the new to world technology innovation that we bring. And so when I was looking to set up the company, I didn't want to kind of just focus on inwardly looking or just focus on outwardly looking. It was really how do I bring this together, which is why Horizon X kind of came about. And so I'm very fortunate today to be joined by Rich. And so, Rich, I'm going to pass it over to you so you can kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a bit of background. I know you're very shy. You don't like to tell people kind of your illustrious background, but I think our listeners would like to hear kind of your journey, how you got into AI,
Love,
and what you do.
love to. I've been very fortunate, Steve, just like you, to have lived through a lot of transformations. So I started my career at Microsoft. I spent 12 years there in the last century, I was fortunate enough to be the product manager, the fourth product manager for Microsoft Excel for the PC. Then there was a little project called Windows that I ended up taking over doing marketing for. And then there was a little Microsoft enterprise business, which I'm proud to say I just did the numbers, went from $50 million to $3.2 billion in 36 months, which was uh, a very rewarding thing. It wasn't just me, it was a village that did it. But I was then fortunate enough to, in 2000, co-found a venture capital firm here in Seattle, which is where I live. And then we founded another venture capital firm in China called Qiming Ventures. And I just took the total capital raise. So those combined entities are up to $11.4 billion raised. And have founded some great companies. You may have heard of DocuSign, which is one of the world leaders in signing. Another company is a company called Xiaomi, which is one of the top mobile phone companies. So I've lived through those transitions. And then the last 4 or 5 years, I've been very much focused on AI. So a bit back to my roots, Steve. I have a double E as an undergrad, and we took one company from 2017 to 2019 that was a computer vision company, sold that to a tier one auto supplier for some of their vision. And the last 2 years, I've been working with you actually quite a lot on the next
Yeah.
generation of enterprise AI. And if anything, things have gotten even more exciting. So from PC to mobile to cloud to this thing, it's just getting better. That's the good news.
Yeah, no, excellent. And I think that's why, you and I have been spending time together, and understanding AI and making it more impactful, I think, is important. There's so many people talking about AI right now, and there's so many people calling themselves experts and how they're making a difference. But when I look under the covers, I see that a lot of people are having a hard time getting past the POC stage, putting it to production, making it real. You're one of the few people that I've seen that has the ability, not only has the capacity to understand it all and understand the value of it, but to make it real and make it valuable for people. So I thought, what better way to share this with everybody, and for people to hear through you. So, Rich, I know you've got some slides. Shall we go through some of
Yeah,
your?
why don't we go some slides to give you a little bit of perspective? And
Excellent.
I think that it's really important to realize that if you are confused, if you are not confused about AI, there must be something wrong with you. Because unless you just got your PhD in 2022, we're all obsolete. And I'm happy to say I spend so much time reading papers and things because it's so new. So don't feel like uh, you shouldn't understand it, because life has never been more complicated. Next slide.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, your slide presenter is not doing a good job here.
Yep. Okay, I just want to give everyone a big perspective. So what you see here is a chart that shows someone's actually calculated the total amount of output from the world since 0 AD, so when Christ was born. And that blue line you'll see is the world GDP up until 1930. What do you notice about that line, Steve? It's like nothing happened, right?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, it's just flat, and kind of what comes next is just incredible.
It's incredible. So 1930, which was when my mom was born, just to give you a sense, the GDP there had never been higher, and it's 40 times less than what we have today. So here's the amazing thing. Year 2000, some of us may remember that, we have doubled the total production of the world in the last 25 years. So everything we've done over 2,000 years is nothing compared to what just happened in this century. So if you feel dislocated, you should feel dislocated, because we are dislocated. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, here's the other problem. So you see, this is an eye chart, but the thing I draw your attention to, you see the thing on the upper right? These are basically the time to adopt technology. So in years. So on the bottom is the century, or when it was, and on the top is how many years it took to adopt. I would have loved to live in merry old England in 1775, because the spindle, which revolutionized making sweaters, took 130 years to become mainstream. So literally, it's like 4 generations before we had to worry. This GPT thing and the AI thing has taken less than 24 months. So don't feel bad about it being difficult to adapt. We're just not designed to be that adaptable. Next slide. Okay, so here's the interesting thing for all of us in the enterprise. Last year, I would have said, hey, ChatGPT came out first. It was the big news. It should be the dominant provider of large language models to everybody. And the fact is, this is a survey that was done of enterprises in terms of what they use. And yes, ChatGPT has a 27% share, but look at all the other stuff. There's no like one standard. Claude, Anthropic, these companies didn't even exist 2 years ago, Meta and so forth. So there's a lot of confusion because it's not clear what the right path is. Next slide, Steve.
Yep.
So final thing I want to tell you. So this is rather a remarkable chart. So there's a utility called Archive, which is where all the computer science and other papers are published. So if you look at the left there, about 2005, there are about 1,000 papers published every year. I mean, that's a lot, but not crazy. If you look at the last number, this just finished for 2024, there were over 10,000 papers per month published. That means in the time we've done this LinkedIn chat, there's going to be about 200 new papers that someone's got to review and look at. Now, not all of them are great, not all of them are wonderful, but the sheer volume and pace of this AI revolution is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. The fact that how many people are getting in there, and it's just like it's amazing that every time you look, there's so many people adding new models and those kind of things. I know you. I had this one last slide.
Yep. Well, this one last slide is why we're all here. We call everything that we're doing at Horizon X sort of our AI hub. And Stephen and I were lucky enough to be in a meeting with London with some of the top executives. This is our third meeting there. And I think our mission here in LinkedIn Live is to share the same thing to all of you. And the chart on the right you see is the classic Gartner curve of expectations mount like crazy. By the way, Steve, you'll notice quantum is right up there.
Yeah.
And at the very top, very top is generative AI.
Yeah.
And, we are in this, I think, beginning of the trough of disappointment. Having polled a lot of our customers, we have quite a large number of customers doing this. It is really true that the expectations were so high last year. I just feed in, 3 pages to ChatGPT and it'll all be done. What's the problem? And the truth is, everyone is having difficulty deploying it in a way that's reliable and not overly complicated. And if there's only one thing you remember about what we're doing here is we're trying to sort of flatten the curve for you. So all of you who are a part of our, LinkedIn Live family, we hope that we can not have such a trough of disappointment. And the key is to make AI as reliable as regular software and not so overly complicated. Friends, it is really just a way to improve programmer productivity by 10 to 100x. Yes, there's a singularity out there where we may all be gone. Yes, it might be BS, but every one of these revolutions eventually settle on being able to write programs more quickly.
So Rich, I know you and you're like traveling all around the world, and you and I haven't had a chance to kind of sit down and even talk about what we were going to talk about today. So some of the things that just kind of come to mind, in your previous role in Microsoft and developing products, how does AI kind of play into that? Because I know some of the work that I've been looking at the product that you have, the T&E product that is very impressive. And I'm going to try to load it. I haven't been able to load it yet on here to show it to people. But tell me about how, in your vision, are we going to use AI to really simplify and get that productivity? I'll go ahead and move to the slide so that we can kind of focus on you.
It's such a good question. I think the first thing is that I think I'd love to take a poll on the group, but how many of you have typed something miraculously into a chat bot? I don't care whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever, and it's so amazing, and then every so often it's just sort of completely wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That is, Steve, you worked at HSBC for many years. Not really good if you're a bank, is it?
Yeah,
Exactly. Every 10 things just not work.
Yeah.
So I think the key thing here is how we make these things controllable. Now, everyone's talking about the future where there's agents running around doing everything for you. But I think enterprises in particular have to crawl before you walk, before you can run. So the key thing right now is to find a project where you can really take it and split it into a small number of pieces. So for instance, the applications that we've been doing with our partners, we have a specialized small model that all it knows how to do is find and filter information. Like its entire job is to look through SQL databases and find the right tables. And Steve, how many times have you worked in a job where there's all this data and you just want it summarized. You just want it to be like, here's what I need to do to make a decision. And so that's one of the first things we've done. The second thing is, oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. No. I want
Oh,
you to continue on.
yeah.
I don't want. This is what I want people to hear. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, the first product we've done is a product called Persuasion, and it basically divides the problems of a knowledge worker into three pieces. Everyone here probably has to write a memo saying we want to do something different, right? I mean, we wouldn't have jobs unless we were changing and improving things. And so one of the ways to think about the best ways to use AI is, how can I take a process like that and make it easy? So we have one small little AI. All it does is it knows how to filter information. So you get that, 4 lines by 3 columns that really gives you the information you need to make a decision. And then how do you write the business rules so the right decisions are made? Classic example, what product lines do I cut? What should I lean into? What's not working? What's not working? How can you write a memo like that that really just does that for you? And then the final thing, of course, is you got to communicate. So many of these things, it's like, okay, you're done with the AI, not just copy and paste into the stuff, and suddenly you're stuck in the world of copying and pasting into Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So we actually have a special agent. All it does is take those recommendations and turn that into a 3-line Outlook mail with an Excel attachment, with the Word document, and with a full PowerPoint already done. So that's what we have to do, is we have to divide these into small pieces. Some people call those agents, and make each one of them super, super, super reliable. And that's really the magic. Make sense, Steve?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And while it sounds easy, I think it's pretty hard because a lot of people are trying to get there. Maybe before we jump in and kind of show everybody, can you kind of tell me the state of LLMs and where we are? Because it seems like every day that goes by, I hear about a new LLM, and just even over Christmas, I'm hearing about this really crazy LLM that's come out of China that just come from nowhere. And then even I think yesterday, there's another guy, and it seems like even faster and faster. Can you just take your time, kind of share with us what's going on in that world?
Here's the great news. We have millions of people working simultaneously across the globe to make everyone on this call life better. I mean, that is really what's happening. So, the standard has always been ChatGPT in terms of the total performance. If you look at the benchmarks, really, the top 10 vendors have largely caught up. Google's right in there. Facebook, Llama's right in there. But there's a whole number of new competitors that no one's ever heard of. Anthropic, which makes Claude, is in there. But here's the amazing thing. Just released over the holidays was a project called DeepSeek. And they've had a couple versions now, but version 3 is truly remarkable. It's the first open model that has really gotten to the level of the very big tech companies. It's right now, I would just check the leaderboard. It's like number 8 in terms of best models of all time. People are using it. It was, by the way, developed for less than $5 million. Can you imagine that, Stephen?
So yeah, so it's got. I think the previous ones were like a lot more, and then it's gone down to 30 million, and we thought 30 million was cheap, and now getting down to 5 million is crazy.
It's a total game changer. Game changer. And one of the things that's interesting is, while one of the things that is true is, we always thought the big companies were going to dominate. The more GPUs, the more servers, the more the better. But we're learning humans are incredibly, shall we say, resourceful. So this little group didn't have a lot of resources. Now, in comparison to the rest of the world, they had a lot of resources. They had 2,000 GPUs running, but the last one took over 20,000.
Wow.
So they were able to basically do their training in a month with 2,000 GPUs. They've opened, it's called an open weight model. So they've published it out. Anyone can use it. They've also launched a service online at deepseek.com that's about 10 times cheaper than the other guys, and their prices are all falling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been using it. It's remarkable. What's even more, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. No, please finish, because you're probably going to say what I was going to ask you. So go ahead.
Good. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, because I know you're some of these things are being able to run off of laptops, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so some of the machines, so running them off of smaller machines. And I think one of the things when you and I first met, we were talking about the dominance of LLMs, but now it seems to be a shift to SLMs, small language models, that guess what? You don't have to send your data through the cloud. You don't have to send your crown jewels to an organization that
Uh,
might be training their data, their tool on your data. And so maybe you can give us some insight into the work you're doing there
oh
and how
yeah.
you're doing that.
Yeah, I think that you're raising something that's so important. For the first time ever, if you look at the very best models in the world, a model called Llama, it's a long name, Llama 3.3 70B, which is from Meta, has appeared in the top 10. That model is completely open source and can run on a laptop. That's a huge innovation. The right now, our focus, by the way, is to take all of the work that we're doing and just move it completely onto a laptop. That means never leaves your machine. Don't have to worry about where it's going. All those privacy concerns go away. You can deploy it like a regular application. Oh my God, wouldn't that be so great? You can just download it and use it. So that's really, really an important trend. I won't go through all the names. We can leave some notes, but everything from Quen 2.5 to Llama, these are all very, very good models. And one of the key things is the bigger the model, the more it knows. But if you have a small domain, you don't need such a big model. You got to reflect on the fact these models know everything about quantum physics, quantum computing, and Taylor Swift all in one model. Listen, when I'm just trying to find and filter a bunch of SQL data, I don't need Taylor Swift. And Steve, I don't need quantum physics yet either
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to put me out of a job, but yes, I understand.
Yes. No,
Yeah,
no,
no,
no, you've got a long. Don't worry about that, Steve. We got a long time.
yeah,
We
no,
got
I
a long
think we
time.
we do have a long time. Actually, closer I stay to you, the more I'm actually, and and there's two parts to it. There's the excitement part of being there, learning about it, and I think it's being able to catch up and learn. Because frankly, you know, I don't know how, Rich, you stay up to date on the latest information, but like I was saying, I go to conferences, I meet a lot of AI people, I meet people that are very impressive. But when I come and I hear you speak, it's surprising to hear the depth and how deep you definitely go down the rabbit hole, but you know this area very well. I don't know if it's your schooling at Stanford, at the School of Engineering, or where it comes from, but if there was a technical question around AI and where the models
Yeah.
and how we can use them, you're kind of the person you're my go-to person.
Well, I'm very pleased about that, Steve, because being your go-to person is a huge honor. So first of all, thank you very much.
All right, we,
Um,
we gotta stop congratulating ourselves. Okay,
oh,
so
there you go.
let's get back to AI. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to load. So actually, we're gonna do this on the fly. So
Oh, we're gonna try
apologies.
this. All right, let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna load this on the fly here. I'm gonna put your video here. It's a big video. Is that what it is?
It should be about, I don't know, 50 megabytes or something like that. It's
Yeah,
only about 30 seconds. We'll see if
it's
it
an
works.
it's an M it's an MOV file. Apparently,
It
it
does not
looks
like it.
it's
Don't
not
worry about
liking.
it.
It's
Okay,
not
let's
liking.
just go back. I can always do it live if we want to.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to emphasize what you're saying is so important. I see, um, this. I'm just looking at the comments. The speed of innovation and this upskilling. This is the hard part, right? So
Mhm.
the things that we're trying to do. We have a YouTube channel. We're talking to you. Explaining this is actually very hard, and I'm so fortunate to have been in the school of make technical things easy and not complicated. So literally, every quarter I would have to go do a review at Microsoft explaining all this complicated stuff, and it's sort of a lifetime of skills. But the main thing is having a good understanding of an intuition about what AI is all about. And it's too much to go into now, but I think actually in 5 or 6 slides, if you just get an intuition for what it's about, then you can understand the rest.
Yeah,
And this has a lot to do with what are weights, what is all this stuff. And I read some of these papers, they just sort of blather into it. If you don't have that basic understanding, it's hard to go anywhere. And if you
yeah,
think about it, you have to understand math, understand quantum. You think about the number of things where you have to have some basic understanding of things, and then you can sort of extrapolate. So that's really what I'm using, is a bunch of lifelong tools about how you build complex systems. This AI stuff is not, in some ways is amazing. In other ways, it's just the next iteration.
yeah.
So don't worry about feeling behind, first of all. Number two, it does take a lot of brain power to think differently. And I'd like to think, Steve, you and I are both getting younger because we're thinking new thoughts every day. And that's really the key. And that's what this session is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting younger because we're curious, and even where we are in our careers and our stages in life, we're deep down trying to understand this and do this well. I mean, from an AI perspective, I think you definitely teach me a lot, and anything that I can help out on quantum or the innovation or any of the stuff that I do. Typically, I usually start off with the audience, asking them to type in the chat and type in their questions. So what I'm going to do now is, number one, tell me where you're calling in from. I want to kind of see where everybody's calling in from, what part of the world. So type that in the chat, and then also put out some questions you'd like Rich or myself to answer. The harder questions, I'll make sure Rich answers. So make them really hard, and then we'll have Rich answer them. So Rich, while we're watching, and hopefully we can see people typing up stuff and tell us where they are, can you tell me if I'm on this call and I'm listening in, or if I'm watching this later, because I think we were there was a timing issue with this, and this is our first LinkedIn live together. We'll make sure that this is it's gonna work well next time as well. If I'm watching this and I'm saying, all right, yeah, I heard great stuff. This guy definitely knows what he's talking about. How do I approach him? How can I engage? Where can he add value for me? So can you give it, without giving me your clients' names? How do we get the message out about where you're providing value? Because that's the exciting part for me. It's not so much that you're out there, we're playing with AI. You're making huge difference for people's processes in retail and other things. So would you mind walking us through
Yeah,
that process?
absolutely. Absolutely. So the first thing that we do a lot of is this kind of reach out, because as a business person, it's just so hard to know where to go. So Steve, we've been doing this around the world. So that's the first piece. The second piece is we do work with key customers. I just described them to you: a large retailer, very large government, very large construction companies, those kinds of folks. And what we do is we start with, where's the place where you can have the most business impact? Let's face it, the technology is fine, but where does it really make a difference? And I think that is super important, because we want to have something that's a quick, what I think of as a chip shot. That is, get quick advantage very fast and on something very simple. So let me just give you one example. We're working with a retail independent software vendor. So most of our work is actually done with specialists in the field, people like yourself, Steve, to basically find a niche and then exploit it. Well, we provide the AI magic and they provide the expertise. So in this particular case, we've all lived through the supply chain crises of the pandemic. That's continuing. So if you're in the supply chain business, the key thing is figure out what products are going to stock out, what I need to do, because products stock out in 12 weeks and it takes 18 weeks to replenish. That's not a good recipe for success. So what we built is a prediction system that helps you find the key SKUs that are going to be out of date soon, which products are selling well, and frankly, which products to cut. Today about 30% of all retail products are obsolete in a quarter. That number's up dramatically because thank God for social media. You don't see it on a dress on someone's body. You just see it on TikTok or whatever, and then you just go buy it.
Yeah.
So this is a question where we went with them. In 90 days, we built a complete system that looks through all their data. We went to their business expert and says, how do you as an expert figure out what to do? We built a system that makes 3 recommendations to the supply chain people, produces that Outlook mail, and produces, here's the SKUs we need to reorder, pre-order, and kill. So that's the general thing. I think it's really important to realize that opportunity for a typical business can double their profits. In the retail business, having the right product at the right time is a huge variant on the net bottom line. So what I advise everyone to do is get to the point where you really have identified something that's really going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then focus like a laser beam on it. Not nice to have, but must have.
Yeah.
What we do, by the way, Steve, I mean, actually, we're doing this with you right now in partnership. Sit down with big companies and say, give me the thing that's the most important. Then you match that with, here's what we can do. And between those, that's the crossover. Some things like, please Venmo me $100 million. We're not quite yet there solving that problem. But if you want to solve a supply chain problem, we can do it.
Excellent, excellent. And there's a lot of good questions coming out, and people kind of telling us
Of course.
where they're calling in from. So I think I saw Yara. Actually, I was down in Miami. Saw Yara down in Miami, and she's asking a question around the technology and how fast technology is changing,
Oh, yeah.
and kind of what are the three things that education systems should change to upskill the generations. I've got three boys, right? And so part of what
Me
scares
too.
me is, oh, you got three boys too?
We have two boys and a girl.
Oh, two
So,
boys and a girl.
yeah.
Okay, so three
Close,
kids.
though.
Yeah,
Close.
close. And so part of it is like this next generation. What does this mean for them? I mean,
Oh,
and how do we make sure that we provide an inclusive place where people
oh.
can learn?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm involved in quite a number of projects in low resource countries because it's going to get so much harder to keep up. I would just give you three things. The first is the day where you can graduate from high school or college, work for 40 years, and then retire without ever learning something new. That worked when you were doing spinning in the 1850s. It ain't going to work now. So you have to be. I think the most key thing, Yara, is how quickly can your children or you learn something new? So many times you say, it's too hard. I can't do this. I can't figure this out. It is really hard to learn.
Mm,
Everyone has
mm.
different modalities. Some of us learn visually. Some of us learn by listening. Some of us learn by doing. And you have to learn your modality and the best way it is for you to learn new things. But, the life cycle for these technologies might be 36 months. In fact, Steve, just to tell you a story, I just looked at the tech stack we're using at Total Neural Enterprises,
Yeah.
TNE.ai.
Yeah.
We have no code that was written before the pandemic.
Wow.
Think about that. Everything we've worked on has been developed after March of 2020.
Everything,
So
everything is BC.
everything is BC, before
Before COVID.
COVID. Yes. So I think the main thing is we have to change our system so we teach kids how to learn. Right. The days of reading, writing, arithmetic, and here's the skills bar, that's great. But the aptitude, the ability to take a new thing and learn is just so important. I think the second thing is that that has to continue into adulthood. Right.
Yeah.
You and I know you just graduated last year from college, but I'm a few years from it. But literally, as I said, if you didn't get a PhD 2 years ago, you're out of date.
Yeah, no,
So
it's crazy.
So your ability to, for instance, and I've been so appreciative of you, when we show these things at our AI hubs and you're like, oh yeah, I understand. This is how I draw a conclusion. That is the key thing.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. We were talking about education, and one of our listeners, Anwar, actually studied. I took an AI course at MIT,
Yeah.
and the kind of the implications on business strategy and stuff like that. And the funny thing was that we took the course. I learned a lot back then. I think he mentioned MIT only because I did go to school there, but then I'm wearing the other badge, so I've got to kind of hide the other badge here.
It's a good trade school. I went to that same trade school on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's a good trade school. So listen, I actually put I put a link out to let people come on board and ask questions live.
Oh, cool.
And
Fantastic.
so everybody on this call, I put a link out there, if you want to ask questions live, feel free. I see that John out of Dubai is one of the first people to come on. So John, I'm about to make you live so you can ask your question. Let's see how well this technology works. So John, are you with us?
Pray.
All right, John, see if you can get your audio working, because I got you on, but I can't hear. I know he asked a question around the tech cycle used to take many years, right? And
Oh,
the
yeah.
AI cycle is extremely fast.
Yep.
how many times a year would an organization need to test models over existing AI enabled processes?
Oh yeah, this is a big issue. So one of the things that, and in partnership with Steve, we're happy to go help you, John. But basically, it's a constant thing. In fact, we were just talking about DeepSeek. Here's the bad news. 2 days ago, the Paul Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence just released a brand new set of models that are completely upending the world again. So the key is to have a framework or a fabric that lets you plug in these models. So we've built something that lets you run, instead of just running one model, you can run 10 or 20 and constantly decide which is better for you. So you can do it beforehand, where you can say, here's the set of models, just try it. I'm going to pick this one over the other one. You can also do it at runtime. So you can have 3 or 4 models running and say, here's how their performance is. We have to start thinking about these things like dynamic systems. I kind of like to think about it, Steve, like a racehorse, right? You're always running around the track trying to figure out what the best one is. And so building a harness like that is going to be durable. The individual horses may change, but you still have to have a training regimen.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got another question actually from a friend from Andy. He's in Lucerne, in Switzerland. I'll probably be seeing him next week in Davos. He
I'm
asked,
so jealous.
is there such a thing as a second mover advantage in AI?
That's called the fast follower. I actually, just another part of my life. We worked almost 15 years ago on a book that was actually derived from Microsoft University training, and that's called being a fast follower. So yeah, there's a lot of advantages there because the cost is so high. DeepSeek, Olmo, these are all examples of being a fast follower. I do think that this is the time in the world where the simultaneous invention is happening so fast because of global communications. It's gotten a little bit harder, right? Because you have to really be on that cutting edge. But the days of, oh, we can wait a year and then follow, that's over. I mean, fast following today means 2 months later, I'm up there and I'm doing something. So it's gotten a lot harder. You got to be a very responsive fast follower right now. And the main reason is you can get your lunch eaten by somebody else who's 2 or 3 months quicker because the markets are changing so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I've got Tony has asked 2 questions. One is about organizations and shifting from pet projects. I don't know if in your big organization you ever had these little pet projects that people
All the time.
were working at. Yeah, no, same with us. To kind of more scalable across enterprise. I mean, I guess when you answer that, maybe put a little color on about how you can help Rich, because I think the real reason I really wanted you on was because you do a good job educating people, but I think you're the real deal. So in other words, you can really help. I've seen your organization. I've seen kind of the technology, what you guys can have. And so I wanted to kind of give that a bit of spotlight. So, associate that answer with kind of what you can do.
Okay. Well, it's pretty easy. So we have a little company. The URL is tne.ai. So that's Tango November Echo.ai. First time I got a three-letter domain name is good. So what we do is we have a system that basically insulates you from all this and that can run across an entire enterprise. And what we have is we have a studio system that makes it very easy to write these AIs. We then have a runtime system that lets you run it across any model that you like. And finally, we provide the user interface that makes it very easy to give it to people as a complete application that's downloadable as a desktop app. So that lets you scale from a department that can have success, then you go to a division, and then you go to corporate, but you're not changing the core infrastructure. So it's really right for today and ready for tomorrow.
Got it. Got it. And then there was another question around some of the ways in which there's a divide between the frontline and the C-level decision makers that can reduce the delivery for the right solutions to the right point.
I guess Tony said that. I lived in that world so much, right? There's the C-level that's doing something high in the sky, and then there's people on the front line trying to do things. I think this is one case where AI can really help because it's so fast to deliver applications. We're working, I mentioned, with the large construction consortium, and we built the first prototype app in 10 days in partnership with them. Wow. So suddenly you don't have to go to the CEO and say, oh my God, how many times have you done this, Steve? It's going to take 4 years to basically get a result.
Yeah.
right? And it's just going to be forever. I think the opportunity of frontline managers to build a solution that really works and then show it right away has never been better because programmer productivity is so high. Now you have to work with the right people. I happen to think we're pretty good at it. I happen to think you're pretty good at it, Steve. If you
Yeah.
work with the right people, you can build a full working prototype. Let me just give you some verbatim quotes. We we were asked to do a massive economic report for a gigantic government project, billion
Hmm.
dollar project, right?
Hmm.
They sketched on literally a napkin what they wanted, the application. We had a non-technical business person write that AI application in 10 days. The CEO looked at it and said, "You've completely changed my business. We need to get on this right away." He signed a contract in 20 days. That's the difference, right? We as frontline people, we can very quickly show something that has gigantic business impact in a month as opposed to waiting for 2 years. And so I
Yeah.
think that's really the big opportunity. And
Uh,
by the way, I think Horizon X is fantastic for helping that kind of innovation and transformation.
Absolutely, and that's why I've got you on now because I definitely I partner up with the best and the brightest, and so you know going back to your point about it doesn't take an army to do this, right? If you've got the right people with the right know-how, there's a lot that can be done. I think you were telling me a story. I won't name product names, but there was this big company that had this big spreadsheet. And you
Yeah.
had asked me how many people developed that spreadsheet when it first came
Oh
out.
yeah. It's a
Uh,
it's a great. Okay. So there's a little spreadsheet that people may have heard of called Microsoft Excel. And here's the amazing thing. The core development team of Excel was never more than, I don't know, 4 to 6 people, right?
that's
That
awesome.
huge project that's worth billions of dollars. And I shout out to if you're listening, John Devon, Chris Peter. I mean, the list goes on. It's just incredible how small a group you need to really make innovation. And I found in many cases, focus wins on these things. You know, our group is not that big. We're about 15 people in our little company. The core developers are unbelievable. I mean, their track record, I'm just so proud every day to be part of this little crew. For instance, our chairman,
Yeah.
uh, Satoshi Nakajima, not that Satoshi, a different Satoshi. Back in the day when Microsoft was behind on the internet, someone had to write Internet Explorer, right? The
Yeah.
first browser. He locked himself in a room, and in a month or so, he banged something out.
Mm.
Like one person changed the course of Microsoft's history just by having a competitive browser. That's the kind of people you need. We're trying, and I think the key thing is not everyone can have it, but concentrating in a company like Tini.ai or Horizon X gives you such an advantage because you sort of get for free this great innovation.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like. I in going through, and we'll definitely have to demo, or what we'll do is we'll put the link to the demo. I know this will be recorded in LinkedIn Live, and it also be recorded in the YouTube channel. So I'll work with Steven to make sure we can add the video in the LinkedIn Live because I think that's going to be powerful for people to see kind of the system you've built, right? So you ingest all of this information. You're able to tell them patterns that they just can't see. And what I really like about the product is you've actually put a skeptic in your
Oh yeah.
product
We,
to
here,
kind of tell you,
if you
hey,
want,
this is
we could take a risk and just try to do it as a
yeah,
screen share.
I love risk. Let's do it. Let's do
You
it,
want to
Gary.
do that? If it
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and
fails,
share your
we can just
screen.
delete that part, right?
Yeah, we're probably
That's-
everybody on our team is probably holding their breath now, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
yeah, I'm okay.
Who knows?
Let's
You
ride the
live.
roller coaster.
Yeah. This is called learning. What could possibly go wrong, Steve, right? Okay, let me try screen share seriously. Okay, here we go. See if this works.
As you're doing that, just a reminder to
Did
everybody.
anything happen?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm just adding your screen share.
Oh, okay.
Where did you go?
Oh, I gotta stay on the screen. Okay. I gave up too quick.
All right, stay on the screen. Okay.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh my God, it works.
It works.
Okay.
There it goes.
So this is the product I was talking to you about. This is the product that we did for the clothing manufacturer. I'm not going to go through the details, but you know, every memo should have three recommend. You know, I preached for years. 1,000 people classes at Microsoft doing product management. Every memo has to have three recommendations that are very crisp, right? So what you see here are this is a supply chain example. These are the 3 recommendations at top. This is the memo on the left. Each paragraph is another box, right? So this is a 20-page memo. These are the key slides that you need to see for data. And all of this was generated by a large language model agent system. That is a bunch of things got together. There was no code. We didn't talk to a Java developer. We didn't do any of that stuff. It was all generated and synthesized. So let's just take a look at it. So let's just take a look at the first one, supply recommendation. I'm trying to zoom it up. Do you think people can see that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So this is a classic example, supply chain opportunity recommendation. You don't have to understand everything about this except that the current projection is, because we have high sales, low stock items, this company in this quarter is going to lose about 637 million pounds. That's not a good thing, by the way. That's considered bad. So what you want to do is you have to take immediate action to resupply before you stock out, right? So if you take a look at this, you'll see this was created in concert with experts. There are 3 important variables: how many weeks on hand, the shipping lead time, and the how many weeks of inventory. You can see it's really nice. It gives you a summary. It tells you what's going on. By the way, you can see down here, you can actually download the Excel spreadsheet in detail. You can download the detailed Word report, which is what's on the left. And you can even email this whole thing as an Outlook document from here. Think about how many hours you would have saved trying to generate this. Now, if you take a look at, this is the paragraph underneath. These are the top 10 handbags at risk of stock out because of lost sales.
Mhm.
This was all generated by using a collection of rules that were collected from those experts. The analyst identifies the top 10 handbags. This rule is triggered because this is the way this company thinks about it. So it's a proprietary AI just for this company, and it talks about the increasing stock levels. It did a pull out of a multi-million line database saying these are the key products, and here are the inventory things. And now I want to emphasize, none of this was generated by hand. This is all generated by the large language model. And then what we have down here is the skeptic. So there's a special agent, a little piece of AI. All it does is it tells you how the data was created. How many times have you done a report and then discovered, oh my God, we're using the wrong data?
Yeah.
So this is basically the code converted back into English. So for instance, this lost sales were calculated as the difference between current weeks on hand and a lead time of 12 weeks, blah, 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 blah. Now, the other thing is we have something called the system skeptic. So this is a little AI. And you know that annoying guy who always says, or girl who always says, woman who always says, I just want to be the devil's advocate. And you know that he or she's just about to torpedo, or they are about to torpedo your entire argument. We built that for you. So this gives you all the reasons this data might be wrong. And I love this. The calculation of lost sales assumes the constantly weekly sales rate. It does not account for potential changes in demand or supply chain disruptions. Additionally, negative lost sales units and revenues indicate overestimation of inventory needs. So here's what it's saying. How many times have you looked at something and you're looking, oh my God, we got to order a lot more, but it was Christmas, right? And now suddenly in January, we're stuck with all this stuff. Or there could be a supply chain disruption, like someone might close the Suez Canal for you. So your little thing about it's only going to take us to 12 weeks to restock may be wrong.
Rich, I don't know that would ever happen. That's so far-fetched.
Oh yeah,
I don't believe it. That won't happen.
No, you can never have a supply chain disruption. Or,
never. It's like the whole planet would close down.
Exactly, like just happened 2 years ago. So, but here's the thing, Steve. This entire thing was done with a non-technical person giving us these rules. And I'm not going to go through it, but there's just basically a system that goes through and, just to show you, this whole thing was created by a network of artificial intelligences. So there's an AI here, there's an AI here, there's an AI here, there's another AI here. This is the document. This is the stuff that each one gets. We just drew this and then wrote a bunch of rules in English, and that created that model.
And I think that's what makes this so powerful is that, people fear like, you know what, I don't know AI. And I saw one of the comments, people saying 90% of people don't know anything about AI. And the reality is what you're doing is kind of democratizing it because you don't need to know about AI. What you're able to do is you're an SME. Tell me, what are the factors? What are the things you need to look at? And, you help build kind of that AI so that they can get that information. And then they, through simple rules, right, they can just write what they're looking for and they can interrogate it. And that's where really the power comes in, and what's going on. So that's why I'm really impressed with the product. How did you make it? So part of it is, how did you make it easy so that
Mhm.
anybody like myself can just write prompts,
Yep.
and it'll pick it up? Is that something that is a lot of custom code on your side or on the company side?
Oh, there's a lot of magic here. So yes, there is custom code. We do use open source heavily, but the magic is making it easy to use, Steve. I can't tell you how many times, like when Excel was there were a lot of other spreadsheets. It's just being incrementally easier, just honing away every step. Just to give you an example, this is our product called Persuasion. Everyone always asks for the URL, so I'm just going to put this here so you can look at it. tne.ai, hard to remember. But the whole magic is in making it simple enough. So I'll give you an example. These are the domain rules. This is just an English file that we use, and that this goes into a relevance filter. You don't have to understand it, but that's just English,
Yeah.
right? And then what we do is and the magic is how you make it so easy that someone can just type that English in. By the way, just for all you techies, we then use that English to train a real model. So what actually happens is we build a custom model, but we start with just give me things that are in English so I can understand them. So I'll just give you one example. The input to this looks something like this.
Yeah.
Let me just go. Let me just go pick on this. Just pick on this for 2 seconds. So this basically says, sorry, wrong slide. I think we can all understand this, don't you think? When reading interpreting results, capitalizations and connected things are inconsistent in field names. By the way, this is a classic thing that would take like a month to program. Sometimes it's sales underscore revenue. Sometimes it's sales dash revenue. And this little thing just says in this particular database, these things are the same, right? Things you must keep in mind. When you're requesting a group of objects, there's a subfamily. So how many times have there been this hierarchy of data? You just put that in rules. You don't need to answer the question, just explain what the data is lacking and why. So this is the kind of thing that goes in, and then we use this to train the models to be as smart as you are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm in an organization. What do I just pick up the phone, give you a call, tell you what the problem case is? What are the areas you'll be focusing on? All right, not
Okay.
everybody you'll be able to help everybody because obviously you're specified. What's kind of your sweet point?
Okay. Great point. Great question. I think our sweet spots are primarily, in enterprise, of course, but in retail, in fintech, in manufacturing, and in we like to call high value applications, the construction, oil refineries, those kinds of things. So those tend to be the big places where we are doing a lot. We also, just for those of you who are third party software vendors, we do all this in partnership with others. We do a rev share with them. So we combine the SME expertise, subject matter expertise with our expertise. So most typically we'll go to market with another company that really understands the area to deliver those solutions together with you.
Got it. Got it. Excellent. So I'm just going to remind everybody we got about 7 minutes left. If you got any final questions for Rich or myself, the questions haven't seemed too difficult. I know there's a lot of questions around concerns of AI, and maybe that's one of the things I'll bring up, Rich, because you and I sat through a lot of presentations. I think it was just this Monday at the London Stock Exchange, and we were hearing about different companies doing amazing stuff with AI. So much to the point that I felt like there's very little that I get impressed with. But one of the companies, the amount of efficiency and productivity was just astonishing. But with that efficiency means a lot of job loss, right? Because there's a lot of people
Yep.
manually doing that work today.
Yep.
And when I'm hearing about impacts on the workforce, 80, 90%, yes, we all can change and every job eventually demises, but the speed of that
Oh yeah.
demise is
I think
actually
it's
a concerning
I, I
thing.
yeah, I
Um,
think it's one of the big societal challenges we face. I mean, I'm overjoyed to be more productive and efficient. I'm not overjoyed with the amount of disruption that's going to happen everywhere. I think we are trying to do a few things to help that, but it is a huge concern. The first thing is, I guess this always starts with people. If you're in a job that feels remote and repetitive, it probably is, and you better get on the Steve Suarez LinkedIn Live channel and start learning like crazy,
Yeah.
because the days are numbered,
Yeah.
right? So the days of my job is and I have many friends, when they started, their job was copying and pasting from Excel for a report, and they get paid 6 digits to do this. This is not a good thing. So if you feel like you're not being challenged at work, you better start worrying.
Yeah.
Now, here's the good news. The value of someone who understands this is probably 10x your current value today. So the good news is, anyone who thinks we've written all the applications in the world has lost their minds. I was just talking to a buddy who's got a $50 million heavy manufacturing company in Britain. And this little company with a small business has 3,000 change orders for their ERP system active right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's never going to get through that unless he does something completely different. So I think the key thing is, one is, if you're in one of those jobs, you better get on the right side, because and the second thing is, there's so much more work to be done. There's so many better ways we could do customer service. I know people like to talk about cost savings. I look at it the other way. If we thought of Microsoft Windows as just a way to cost save versus DOS, we wouldn't be here. It was always been about empowering people to do more and do more and do more. The GDP probably will double again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think that's kind of the exciting part of it. And, if you think about the why I actually get excited about it, is they talk about how AI can help remove dangerous jobs,
Yeah.
dull jobs, dirty
Oh,
jobs. There were a couple D's, right? So,
dull,
and
dirty, and dangerous. You got it.
yeah, exactly. Dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs, which is great, because then this way we can kind of focus on more meaningful work. The thing is, we've got to get to that meaningful work. And I think, to your point, understand where you are, but then empower yourself to go out there and kind of learn about it. So, with the last couple minutes we have left, maybe Rich, I'll go back to you and say, all right, how do people get a hold of you? Just pick up the phone? When should I
Oh,
call Rich?
okay. I'll make it very simple. It's 10 characters. INFO@tne.ai. We're online 24/7 all the time. We're constantly listening to these things. Just send us a note and we'll figure out what to do. Customer service is a huge thing we care about a lot. I don't know if we'll be able to help everybody, but I would like to try.
Yeah. And listen, thanks for kind of trying this LinkedIn Live. This is our first time kind of doing it together. I think it'll be sharper next time we do it. Just for the people in the audience, just to give you a bit of some exciting news coming next week. I'll be on Davos speaking on 2 panels on quantum. But next week, I'm planning on releasing a lot of really cool information. One of them is that we're going to be releasing a new quantum index at the URL is thequantumindex.com, where we're going to be releasing a new index, and it's going to be financial services. Right now we have automotive up there, and congratulations to VW for being number one. We got some other kind of news that we're going to share with you, some partnerships, some educational stuff that I know Anwar mentioned about MIT and stuff that we'll be sharing. But anyway, I wanted to thank you all for your time listening into us. Rich, I want to thank you personally, because I know you're all around the world. You just probably landed. You were with me, so I know you landed back in the Seattle area. And let's see what we can do to help the people out on the call. I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this afterwards on YouTube. So thank you very much.
No problem. And I'm on the way to Asia tonight. So there you go.
Oh, well, you're going to Singapore, right?
Yeah, I'm going to sing.
So anybody in Singapore, please, if this is interesting, reach out.
We're happy to share chili crab with you.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you to all our listeners. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.